everybody, it is Wednesday, it is March the 26th, and we are back for the view from the top. I wasn't here last week, and many thanks to Tally for doing an amazing job and stepping in as our guest host for the day. Tally, many thanks and big kudos and shout out to you. So today we're going to be talking about navigating organizational transformation. It is a huge subject, and anybody who has been through it, anybody who's got the t-shirt, anybody who's got the scars will know that organizational transformation is not for the faint-hearted. It is a big issue. It's a challenge, and it's a really exciting career challenge to have when you are going through that level of organizational change. I'm so excited. We have backstage Diogo Matos from Solvay, and he's going to be sharing some of the experiences that he went through with the Solvay demerger, and it's a fascinating story. But everybody, you know how it works. Please join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you are, what's going on in your world. We are live on LinkedIn, we are live on YouTube, and we are also available on Spotify. So we're interested to hear what you've got to say. We have got codes coming in we've got codes coming in that you can get your CPE codes from ERC, from SHRM, from HRCI. So we've got Rob Zeitz coming in from Cambridge, from Boston. We've got Ferzine coming in. We've got people coming in from all over. Stephanie from Philadelphia is in the house. We've got Stefan from Munich in Germany. So if you want your credits, if you do want your CPE credits, here they are. So many thanks to our good friends at ERC for giving us the GMS and the CRP credits. Many thanks to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage for helping us get the HRCI credits and the SHRM credits. So there they are. Now, next week, we've got another great show for you. Next week, we're going to be talking about, well, a new way of doing mobility. We're talking about smarter budgeting, better mobility. We're talking about the future of managed budgets. Think, if you like, of a hybrid between conventional managed services and lump sum. Managed budgets is an area that everyone is talking about, and we've got a whole show dedicated to it. I think you'll really enjoy that next week. Meanwhile, what's been going on in our wonderful industry in the last 7 days? So we've got breaking news. So what has been going on? Who's got a new job? Who's been promoted? And what job opportunities are there out there? I'll tell you what, why don't we take a look? So there we have it. Lots of great job opportunities out there. Lots of people have been promoted. Lots of people have got new jobs. If you've got some news you want to share with us, then let us know. And if you've got a job that you want to get out there into the LinkedIn sphere, let us know. If you've had a promotion or you've got a new job, again, let us know, and we will give you your minute of fame as we promote your opportunity or your job or your promotion next week in our show. Just reach out to us. Meanwhile, we're moving on. We're going to be talking about immigration, and as ever, we have backstage with us Fragerman's wonderful Julia Onslow Cole. So everybody, you know how it works. As we welcome Julia to the stage, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Brian.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well.
And whereabouts are you today?
I'm in France today.
Nice. Very nice. In fact, I know, and I'll tell our audience, I actually saw you on the BBC News earlier today. So this is the highlight of your day, but you've done other sort of less important news channels as well.
I know. I was talking about the budget on behalf of the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Yes, I think all businesses are kind of quite concerned about the spring statement.
Absolutely. But today you're going to be talking to us about mobility.
Thank you, Robert. Yes. I'm going to do a two-part focus on Europe this week and next week. This week, I'm going to be talking about some technical legal changes and some top tips for moving people to Europe or moving around Europe. And next week, I'm going to concentrate on a geopolitical update on Europe. And I just wanted to give a massive thank you to Anna Sophia Walsh, who is our director, who's responsible for knowledge in Europe. And she's utterly amazing. And she really is a fountain of all knowledge. So what happened is we had the European Summit last week. So that's a very important meeting in Brussels. And I want to really cover three things that are happening in Europe. The one is a strict enforcement of rules. And we really see this because actually a lot of the governments in Europe now have a lot of far right parties in them and their coalitions, and they're quite fractious. So there is this theme of, everyone really wants a stronger immigration enforcement environment. So that's one thing I want to say.
It's funny, isn't it, that strict enforcement you'd have thought would be sort of what just happens naturally, strict enforcement.
Yes.
Is a thing now,
Yeah. And the second thing is strengthening the visa waiver program. That's something that all countries are doing. And the third thing is strengthening legal pathways for non-EU nationals. So it's this kind of really divergent view that governments have. On one hand, they want to strengthen borders and protect themselves and make sure there's no non-compliance. But underneath, Brian, there's this massive war for talent, massive. And even, we've always said that there's highly skilled tech talent that all countries want. But in Europe, because there's this massive ramp up in defence, there's actually a lot of talent that they need, tech talent for cyber, drones. There is a real shortage in the world of really high skilled, high touched tech people and in other areas. So that's why we have, all of this fight, really a real fight for talent. So just talking about the Schengen borders, there's been delays in the digitalisation of the Schengen borders. So in October this year, there's going to be an EES system, that's entry-exit system. And this is really important for all of those who have holiday homes like Brian in Spain and elsewhere, because when this system comes in, they will really be able to electronically track how much time you're spending. And do remember that under the new rules, and especially for British citizens to remember, it's 90 days in a 6-month period. And, once the electronic system is in, this is really going to be tracking you. And then the other thing is the ETIAS system, which has been delayed until Q4 of 2026. So what's happened?
That's been delayed, will it?
No, it has. But basically, in a nutshell, they're moving towards this massive electronic digitalization of Schengen and all of the travel within Europe, making it much harder not to obey the rules. And the other thing is that we've talked about this before, but many countries in Europe have opted out of Schengen and they've imposed their own checks on borders. And they're doing this legitimately because under Schengen, you could say if there's security reasons that you're worried about, you can actually put in your own border checks. But what they're saying is that once this digitalization happens, the European Commission won't allow these opt-outs. And so on one hand, it will get better because, of course, all these border checks, random border checks where there weren't any before, are causing, a lot of issues for people, and especially those who are working in one European country and living in another. There's massive delays around the border. So the big takeaway for travellers is carry all of your identification document. Make sure you always travel with that. And, if you're visa exempt, like Brits are going into Europe, keep counting your days and really be mindful of that 90-day in a 6-month period. The second thing I want to talk about is visa suspension. Now, there are countries that you can buy citizenship. So it's called investment citizenship, economic citizenship. And Vanuatu is one of those places. There's 80 islands in the South Pacific Ocean. And they had no visa to go into Schengen. And that's one of the reasons why people were prepared to pay a lot of money for citizenship there, because they were visa free coming into Schengen. And for the very first time, the European Union has removed them from the visa free list. So that's quite a powerful thing, quite a disappointment from people who've paid a lot of money for that citizenship. And what they're saying is that now they're widening the powers of which they can withdraw visas, or withdraw the position that people don't have visas, and they can say, for example, if there's a hybrid threat, so that's where they don't think the country is aligned with EU values. So they've really widened what the situations can be to take away non-visa status from certain countries. So that's something else to watch. And then very quickly,
do we know why they sort of particularly went for Vanuatu on this? I mean, it's
well, I think the idea is that the idea is that maybe they're not happy with the security checks that Vanuatu put on people when they buy the citizenship, and then maybe that it could be that then if they get that citizenship just by paying money and there's not thorough checks, then maybe there's a security issue. I mean, I'm not saying that is the case, but it could be potentially one of the reasons that they've taken the step.
Can I ask you a question, Julie? I know we're running a bit longer than normal. I just want to ask you a question. Rob has asked the question, could this immigration tracking information be shared with tax authorities for anyone working away from their home country?
Well, that's a brilliant question, and I'm sure the answer is yes. I mean, that's the whole way everything is going. All of these things are being tracked across tax, immigration, and that makes the compliance landscape much more difficult. But that's it's an excellent point, and it's something that everybody will need to get to the bottom of.
Sure. Sorry, I'll let you carry on. I rudely interrupted you.
Yes, so there's a EU talent pool, which is a new idea that you can have this digital platform, and it's to help non-EU job seekers get jobs in Europe. So the idea is that you put on that platform roles that are in great shortage in the EU, and that you'd have kind of talent partnerships, and people could do courses. And if they've done a course, say a 6-month course with a talent partnership, their application should be expedited. So it's a very clever idea. And it shows you this kind of thing that I'm trying to explain, where on the one hand, the government's very concerned about borders, about control, about compliance. And then yet on the other hand, they really want talent and they're worried about talent. Just on talent, I mean, there was a really interesting article I read about the fact that, as we know, all European countries are really putting a lot more money into defence. We've seen Germany, put 500 billion, and there's a lot of money. The defence companies are getting to develop all this drone technology, etc., etc. And we've seen the shares of European defence companies go up. But at the same time, this report said that there is just not enough people to actually to use all these machines, and there's a dearth of people who actually can go into the army. And there's some statistics about of how short the shortfall is, how big the shortfall is of what the armies in Europe, in France, in Germany, in the UK aspire to having, and what the gap is. So that's a very interesting thing. So this shortage isn't just in high skilled tech people. There's shortage of people going into the army, and there is, it's a global shortage in lots and lots of industries. So this whole idea about this talent pool, very innovative, very exciting, hasn't been endorsed by the European Parliament yet. And the last thing I just wanted to say is there's a whole raft of new policies about returning failed asylum claims. And this is obviously, as we know, a long standing topic about what do you do about all the asylum seekers, and if they've failed their claims, how can they be removed? And there's a lot of different proposals that have been put together to try and increase the return rates, because generally those return rates are quite small.
Okay,
So that's my roundup.
yeah, thank you so much. That's amazing. As Ferzine says, EU talent pool, it's intriguing. So we're now going to move on. We've run over slightly on immigration. We're now going to be talking about tax, and we've got with us backstage the wonderful Julie Barron from Vialta Partners, who's going to be talking to us about some of the tax aspects of mergers and acquisitions. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big thank you as ever to Julia Onslow Cole, and welcome to our stage, Julie Barron. Hey, Julie, great to see you. Great to see you. So this is our last week of being in the sort of the funny time gap period of just the 4 hours the East Coast, and then next week we're back to normal. So, Julie, what are you going to talk to us about today, and tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so today I thought I would just talk a little bit about what M&A can mean from a tax perspective, and if you're a tax mobility person in your organization going through an M&A transaction, what should you be thinking about? So I'm just kind of give a list of things that maybe you need to tackle if you're going through one of these acquisitions or splitting up as a company or any of those type of things. So obviously payroll requirements are key. I think I had my colleague Tina Schraub on maybe last year or the year before to talk about in the US what that means and how different Social Security issues arise because someone was an employee of one company and now they're an employee of another company. And, what can you do to minimize the cash flow issues there? But you've got to really look at what's the status of your global tax filings. Let's say you're acquiring a company, are they following the same policies and procedures as you would? And are there any gaps in what they're filing? And are you a little concerned that there might be some risk out there that if these expats come over to your new company, would there be some exposure to some tax that they maybe haven't paid? So really get a look at, what are they doing as a policy? Have they done all their tax filings? What kind of risks are you taking on? And that's super important as you're thinking about buying a company and the purchase price and all those kind of things. Are there any open tax accruals? So, we always tell everyone they should be accruing for future tax costs. Well, let's say you're acquiring a company with expats in Belgium where the tax bill might not come for a couple of years. What's out there and what do you need to make sure you're keeping in your budget if you're acquiring a new company? What are they doing with their hypothetical tax deductions? Are they actually sending those charges that come from the home payroll back to the host payroll? How is that happening? And if, July 1st is your cutoff date and everything stops, then have all those accruals and cross charges and all those kind of things been finalized, and what's going on with that? Are there any receivables out there? So equalizations, right? So somebody might owe you $100,000 on an equalization, and who's going to take over tracking that? And how do you make sure that you've got a really good list so that you are actually tracking down that money and not just letting that go because someone left the company or isn't with the new company, and what's happening with all of those kind of things? And one final one, the tax assessments. Like I said, in Belgium, you could have tax assessments. So just making sure you know exactly where everybody is with their tax assessments. Are there any audits out there? Are there notices that need to be paid? And really making sure that all of those kind of things are going. And one more, I'll say one more, Brian. Sorry, I have such a list.
Go for it. No.
Yes, I know.
The
yeah.
version, absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of times in a merger, acquisition, all those kind of things, your equity plans can pay out early. Maybe they get converted. What happens with all of that? Right, change of control stuff, yes. What happens with all that equity compensation? If you have people all over the world, what does that mean in every country as far as these early payouts or delayed payouts or, again, conversion? So you really need to look at the plans of both companies. What does it mean for any kind of equity compensation that people might have? And then make sure you're accruing for those costs too. All right, Brian, I think I've got enough now.
That's great. We're now going to be going into a real live case study to talk about what actually happened when a company, and you mentioned Belgium in your example. Actually, this is a Belgium headquartered company by lucky coincidence or planning, depending on how you it. So we're now going to welcome to our stage Diogo Matos from Solvay, who's going to be telling us all about their journey during a demerger. So everybody, you know how it works. Please, to say thank you to Julie Barron and to welcome Diogo Matos, please, everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey Diogo, how you doing?
Hi Brian, all good. Like your energy.
Oh, it's
always brilliant.
Fun of the game. So it's great to have you here, Diogo.
Thank you very much.
I'm prepping before, and the story you tell is amazing. But let's just get a bit of background here before we start. First of all, I said that Solvay is a Belgian company, but you yourself are based in Lisbon, and that's where mobility is. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The team is in Lisbon. Basically, the global business services are in Lisbon. So HR service line and other service lines, procurement, finance, and others. Yes.
Okay. And how did you get into mobility? What's your background?
Well, my background is human resources and strategic management. And when I was working at Nokia, maybe 10 years, 11 years ago, I bumped into global mobility, and the bug got me. And I started enjoying those complexities, managing services, managing providers' expectations, discussing with leadership teams, with businesses, with managers, managing services, etc. And then it was for me, it was open-minding to become an expert on the matter.
So like so many of us, I think probably the vast majority of our audience, you sort of fell into it. You didn't sort of wake up as a young child to say, "Oh, Daddy, I want to be a global mobility specialist." You found your way there, and then like so many of us, once there, you you're there, you get stuck, because we all fall in love with mobility. So Diogo, what I want to do is, Solvay is a big company, and it's a very well-established company. It's been around for a long time, but there may be people that don't know it. So tell us a bit about Solvay.
So Solvay was founded by Ernest Solvay. He won the Nobel Prize, and it was around more than 160 years ago. So maybe 165, probably around that time.
So we're talking the 1860s or so.
Yeah. Yes. And it has been basically a leader in chemicals. Globally, it has been the major company in chemicals, and it can go from clothes to food to fibers from your cell to the microfibers for your cell phone, cars, airplanes, all over. So basically, Solvay is everywhere. We are chemistry. We are a chemical company for the essentials. So we master the essentials, basically.
Okay, so you're a big chemical company and you've been around for whatever 160 odd years, but then strategically a decision was made to demerge. So tell us a bit about that, the background to what happened.
Well, the world's evolving, the world changes, and those who stop evolving die, basically. And it was the decision of the company due to market reasons, due to shareholder value, due to strategic decisions to demerge and create two different companies, but still leaders in their own areas, and it has been successfully until today. So yeah.
So you merged out. You had, on the one hand, you had legacy Solvay. You had the, if you like, that company, and then you merged out or demerged out a new company, which I think was called Science Co. Is that
Science-Co? Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of volumes. I mean, are these companies of roughly, how big are these two companies now?
I would say roughly Solvay is now 9,000 employee company, and Science-Co probably would be around 12,000, 13,000, more or less.
Okay, so this was pretty much a demerger of equals. If anything, the bit being spun out was slightly larger than the bit.
Yeah.
The bit staying.
Exactly.
Okay, so I've got that. So you've got a big company effectively splitting itself in half or in half-ish. So I'm understanding that, and I understand the business rationale. You talked a bit about that, but what about from a mobility point of view? I mean, that's what we're here. Tell us how that worked from your perspective. Presumably you had expats all over the world, you had processes, you had teams. Tell us a bit about, you had technology, how all that worked.
It's well, different companies may have different ways of doing this kind of major projects. Solvay history, the track record is to work under transitional service agreements.
So a TSA, a transitional service.
Yes, a TSA.
Okay. For people who don't know, what is a TSA? What is a transitional service agreement?
It means that during a certain period where you are slowly fading out, it means that you support both companies in the same way, lift and shift. So policies are basically the same, the rationale is the same. Eventually, the culture is kept the same for a certain period, so that the disruption is not so big, and in a way that you can support complex topics in an easier way.
And when was this? When are we talking about? When did this happen?
You mean
when did you start the whole
TSA.
TSA process? Yeah.
Okay, the TSA started in 2023 between July and December. So July was when the companies slowly started working virtually independently, and then in December 2023 was when, in fact, the split was happening and the TSA the TSA started in June 2023, basically.
Okay, so the idea is that you do this lift and shift, and then you, from your perspective, your team, you're basically at that point looking after two programs. You're looking after the Solvay program, and then, if you like, of itself, and then under the TSA, you're then looking after the Science Co program
Correct.
as well during that TSA period.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
There was a moment where probably the uncertainty of if the team will move to the new company or if the team stays in the new company in Solvay. So it was a moment of the transition that and then we eventually stayed at Solvay and started supporting Science Co. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question of the audience, and out there in LinkedIn world, the question I want you to address is, what do you think is the biggest challenge for global mobility managers, for someone like Diogo or someone in a similar situation during a corporate demerger? And I'll give you four choices. Is it managing your expats? Because obviously when this is happening, you've got any number of people actually on assignment or on transfer in a foreign location, all of a sudden finding that the company is splitting in half. So that's one. Or do you think it's managing your own team? Because obviously people then have to worry about what's going to happen to their jobs. Where are they going? Are they going to the new company? Are they staying with the old company? What does it mean? What about your vendors? I mean, that's the third one. Presumably all the vendors are calling up to try and find out what it means for them. And then the last one is actually managing the policies, putting in place new policies or managing the lift and shift of the old policies and making sure that they work. So out in the audience, what do you think is the biggest of those four challenges? Managing your expats, managing your team, managing your vendors, or managing your policies? And whilst we're waiting for comments from the audience, and if anybody else has got in the audience got experience about a demerger they've been involved with, do drop it in the comments or ask any questions of Diogo directly, and we'll try and deal with them. But Diogo, let's just take this from your perspective and see what's, see where you were with all this. What was your biggest challenge, or let's talk through each of them.
Some of the things were pretty stable due to the TSA, and that was the brilliant side of working under a TSA, where policies were kept the same, so everything was stable. We didn't have to navigate between all those changes. I think that the difficult part is to managing our own team, especially because under these projects, it means resizing the teams. It means restructuring. It means communication of the new structure. So communicating with your team, what are the positions, how many positions, and all those anxieties, ambiguity of do I have do I still have my position, my job? Will I move to a new company, especially employees that are for a long time in the company? So managing the team and through that period was heavy and difficult, but also managing the expats, knowing if they are compliant, knowing if they are legally working, visas, work permits, taxes, like Julie said and mentioned. So it's liabilities. Where are the liabilities? Who should pay me what? Who should I pay what? So especially on those countries where mother company changes, legal entities changes, I move between legal entities. What does it mean? It's heavy. Let's say it's heavy. Yeah.
Were you getting lots of emails and phone calls and messages from the expats regarding what it was going to mean to them and their visa status and coming home or not coming home or job security? were you getting a lot of that going on at the time, especially in the early days?
Not anymore.
Yeah, no, I
that's
mean,
for sure.
it began, yeah.
We had our number of stresses of calls and emails and meetings, not only with the employees but with managers, with business, with country HRs, to understand what does it mean working together, putting up a project in different countries, especially the countries with high volumes. Uh, that was heavy, but eventually we worked with incredible teams that supported everyone.
Okay, and what about your team? I mean, what was their sort of reaction when this was first announced?
The information about the project was already there for at least since 2022.
Okay, so this is well trailed.
Yeah, there was a communication that this was the biggest project of Solvay's history. So it was not. The problem is it's too far away until you understand that too far away is tomorrow. So when it happens, it hits you hard, and especially because the things are always rapidly changing. So if the TSA end date is eventually to end of 2025, then you have a communication saying that probably we will accelerate because we want to go on with our transformation, and so we want to end the TSA quicker, which means that you are expecting something, but then the reality hits you hard, and then you have to adjust to that. And so the reaction was, of course, anxiety, stress, not knowing the future, especially even if you know the future, what is the volumes that we will have? Will global mobility continue to be relevant in the new companies? Will I get, I would say, bored or not? Do the volumes make sense or not? If the volumes are decreasing, is the team still existing or not? So, and you as a manager have to deal with that, but you have to keep it calm, and you have to communicate with your team, not putting the head in the sand, but being real, but also being motivational, I would say. And in the end, everything went well, and it was a success. So it's today I can breathe because everyone is having their future secured and their development quite well.
Oh, big shout out then to everybody on the old Solvay team. Have they moved roles? I mean, what's happened to you? Had a team of what, about 7 people or so?
We were 7 with me as a manager, then 6. So it was Lilia, Paula, Tanya, Katarina, Joanna, and Sandra. I don't know if any of them are in the
shout out
in the episode.
They are,
if they are,
yeah,
they can shout out. A big thanks to them. Without them, this was not possible. They were the engine behind global mobility hurdles and stresses. And yeah, okay, it means we were 6 specialists. At Solvay, we kept 2, so Paula and Lilia, and Science Co is having Tanya, Katarina, and Joanna, and Sandra moved to a 3rd company. So it was a success that we kept everyone with their, especially under this global mobility world that they wanted to stay.
That's lovely. So in terms of that survey I put up, if you remember, the question was, what is the biggest challenge? In terms of the results that we've got coming in, let me just put this up here. What it says is that 17% said managing the expats was the biggest challenge. 21% said managing your own team. 13% managing the vendors. And a whopping great 50% said managing your own policies. So let's get on to policies in a moment. I just want to start with vendors. We've talked about expats, when we talked about the team, what about the vendors? I mean, did you get, as soon as this was announced, were you getting calls from your various vendors, and did you then have to split the contract so they had, whereas you had one contract with Solvay, was there then two contracts being negotiated, one with Solvay and one with Science?
Yeah,
How did that work?
Yeah, it was during a certain period there was a discussion of or we split the contracts or we keep the contracts under the same umbrella. What does it mean in terms of costs, of duplicating efforts where probably wasn't needed? So some contracts were kept together, some others were splitted where it made sense, especially, and not only talking about Solvay, but if you are going through this kind of demerger, does it make sense to split? Yeah, it makes sense to split if you split the costs. If you do not split the costs and the costs are kept because you have a TSA, then probably splitting the contracts may create additional problems or complexity that where is not needed. So in some contracts we split it because it was needed. In some others we didn't because it was better to keep them together. But of course, later on, in the phasing out, of course, that new discussions started to create different contracts, duplicate contracts, of course.
Absolutely. And I'll just take a comment here from Ferzine. She says, let me just take that other banner off. She said, change can be unsettling, but as Diego says, if you don't change, you die. A great way to help teams embrace change is through the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Oh, classic of its era, Who Moved My Cheese. I remember that book well. But I mean, that's a great point, is that change can be unsettling. I mean, how unsettling was change for you and your team? How stressful was it? Yeah.
It was stressful. I'm not here to tell only good things, it's during this period you have incredible things and you have difficult things. If you ask me, would you go all over through this again? Yes, in terms of what you learn as a manager, but also all of the teams, not only in global mobility, all of us that were under this, the development that we got, the experience that you got, the knowledge that we got, the baggage that we take anywhere where we are going. It's incredible. It's amazing. So I would go all over through this again. If you ask me, would you go all over again on the anxiety, stress, nights without sleep, not knowing what happens to your team, not knowing what happens to your love team, which is global mobility, and to yourself, because you have to go through this, support your team, but you also do not know what will happen to you. If you ask me, no, I probably, this would be something I would not didn't want to go through again.
You said sleepless nights. It's not often we get sleepless nights directly from our day-to-day work. What was it that caused the sleepless nights? I mean, was there a couple of trigger points in particular that you can share?
Well, it was not really about workload. I can tell you that the workload was not like to die for. It was not crazy. So maybe a few days it got crazy, especially when we have management meetings for 2, 3, 4 days, discuss strategic things. Some things that happen, some stress that happen here and there with employees that can have problems because of the split, etc. But it was not that. The problem is your head is full of things that are not workload but are creating problems to you, stress to you, anxiety to you. I am addict to sports, and I in some period I was training 6 days a week, but your head is so full.
So what sort of sport do you do?
I run ultra trails. So
Ultra trails. That's like a marathon in the mountains, is it? Or
exactly, it's double a marathon in the mountains. So the last one I did was in 2023. I crossed the Pyrenees for 120 kilometers.
Right, you
It
crossed.
took me 20-something hours to
Oh
finish.
my God! Kudos, kudos! I'm so super impressed.
But it's good as well to work on your perseverance. So
Yeah,
I can relate sports with work and the
yeah,
way that we are able to solve problems when you are in pain. But to say this, I was in a certain period where my head was so full of things that I was not having space in my head to put the training. It was not workload. It was the head was full of thoughts, basically.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
you must have had all these documents, all these policies, these records that had to be transferred over to Science Co under the TSA.
Yeah.
And not just transferred over, but presumably you had a time frame to do it. In fact, I haven't asked that. What was the time frame for all this? What was the time pressure you were dealing with?
I would say it was between, well, it was between 2023, but between 2023 and the end of the TSA, that was on the end of October. But we
October
started slow.
24.
24.
Okay. So you had a year and a bit.
Well, we can say it's a year, but when you get information that the TSA is ending earlier, then you get, then you understand that you didn't enough before that. So I would say that was not a period. The period was between maybe May 2024 and October 2024. So that was the
6
biggest,
months, yeah.
the difficult period. Yes.
5 months. So you had 5 months of real pressure to
Yeah,
basically
to
split a company that had been going for 150 odd
split
years. Yeah.
policies, split operational procedures, split responsibilities, split liabilities, documentation, information, especially where employee allocation, because you can have employees with assignments to legal entities that were Solvay, but 5 years later they were on assignments that were ScienceCo. So the discussions around this, where the liability should be, where this employee should be, the costs and payments, like Julie told, where the responsibility lies. So um, going through this massive, and also the authorizations, because we work under an environment where, well, should we take authorization out, should we put authorization in some documents, should we split it, should we move it? um, it was massive, but it was also an interesting period, a very interesting period as well.
I suppose, Roy, how did you even know the questions to ask? I mean, did you have mentors who'd done it before, or were you? Because I mean, this is not the sort of thing you know now. The next time you do it, what to do, but you were doing this for the first time. How do you? Did you have a mentor or someone helping you? I mean, how did you even work out what the questions were to ask? And and it's like an 80-20 thing. 80% of it is quite easy and obvious, but there's going to be another 20% that you think, oh gosh, I forgot about doing this, I forgot about that, doing that.
And it happened, of course, but well, we are part of a huge, large project team
Yeah.
around the demerger.
So you were part of a bigger team, yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, yeah.
No, obviously yes, but
Yeah.
not in all the steps. But of course, when it hits the HR service line, of course, the teams exist. We work together. We work management, working with what was our plate, but also working with our own teams, but also working with providers, but also working with advisors, external ones. So all together, and also at corporate with the global mobility practice leader at the time, Adeline Fontaine. I don't know if she's in the show. I don't think so today, but she's now ScienceCo. All together, we prepared what we thought was the handbook to everything that we had to tackle between information, documentation, immigration, liabilities, allocation, team restructuring, who stays at Solvay, who goes to the other company, what was the rationale behind the team splitting into two, the difficulties of splitting the team into two. So all of that was part of the handbook that we built. If you ask me, it was the first time I did it. Yes, it was the first time. Did we miss out some things? Yes, we did. But fortunately, we were able to tackle it everything, because there was somebody always that was, did you think about that? And then, okay, let's put it in the handbook. Maybe I forgot. But at the same way, we did that to other teams, and they, okay, I remember that. So working in silo is very bad. Working under a network of talented professionals in their own areas and working in a matrix, it works very well. And that's my thing to say. We need to work together because this was a major project, and without having this work with different teams, it would not be possible. And fortunately, it was a success.
We've talked about some of the hard stuff. I mean, hard in the sense of, data and legal stuff and tax stuff and what have you. Let's move on to some of the soft stuff. What about the two companies? Were they quite different from a cultural point of view or etiquette point of view? And how did you, and did you have different priorities between the two companies? I mean, with one company saying, I want to stay as we are, and the other one saying, we want radical change? Or, I mean, tell me about the cultural aspects of what's going on here within the company.
I think we did not have, in global mobility, we did not have such a huge difference, especially because the team that moved to the other company, we worked together before, and so we understood each other very well. We understood what was at stake. We understood what was requested. In the beginning, everything was to stay exactly the same, so there was no problems with the policies. Maybe the culture was a bit different, maybe more tailor-made approach, with more exceptions here and there. In the other company, Solvay, probably the road was the opposite, start ending exceptions, a bit more cost conscious, but in the end, I think there was no major problem there. So it was in that, as you said about hard stuff and soft stuff, that was pretty soft. It was not there that the problem existed. Actually, I think that, especially for global mobility, because not only mobility ended the TSA earlier, other teams also ended earlier the TSA. But in my opinion, I think that was they understood, both companies understood the need to be stable for a certain period. But I do understand that ending the TSA earlier was exactly one of the reasons was we want to accelerate the transformation. But to do that, we need to go into separated ways, not to create additional complexity where it's not necessary.
So the TSA was originally due to end when?
The idea was end 2025, mid to end 2025.
Okay, so let's call it whatever, November, just whatever, end of 2025, and it got terminated, or it got brought to a close early.
October 2024.
Okay, so maybe a year early. So the TSA,
more or less, yes. Yeah.
How much notice were you given that the TSA was ending?
6 months, 7 months.
Okay, so you then had to say, okay, it's all. And from your point of view, how did you manage expectations? Because presumably, the people wanting the TSA to end were sort of pushing you to sort of get there and make sure that you got to that day. I mean, you must have been managing their expectations in some way. How did that all work?
Well, what do you mean managing their expectations exactly? From
Well,
Science Co, you mean?
well, off Science Co, from the employees, from your team, everybody had expectations, and you presumably had to find some way of managing them and saying that, well, these are the steps we've got to take. This has got to be done.
Oh yeah. In different forums. So in different forums with corporate, with HR service line, we had our own meetings, our own milestones, our own monthly, quarterly meetings to say this is where we are, this is what we are looking for, this is where we have red flags, and in our own team. So this is where what is happening. Uh, this is the number of positions we have for Solvay. So to create the correct expectations, this is how it looks like. Science Co will open X number of positions. So it's also adequate that some of you apply for those positions as well, etc. So managing those expectations was part of the project, with regular meetings in different forums for different topics, for soft and hard topics, um, and yeah, that was the project.
I think it's incredible what you've achieved. I've got sort of really, I suppose, one last area I want to get to, which is, what are your learnings and the advice you give for anybody in your situation doing the same thing now or about to start? What are the learnings that you would want to share, the lessons that you've learned?
First of all, make sure that you have a robust global mobility program. I mean processes, operational procedures, policies, end-to-end daily processes, so that when you start this kind of project, you are already having a robust background with you. And that's what we did in the last in the 2 years before the TSA started. So it was very important to have this in place. Secondly, to set up a project management team to be able to tackle all the things. You will not remember everything, and it's not human for you to remember everything, especially if a huge company with a much larger volume is demerging. So make sure you have a team that takes care of everything, and that remembers all the steps, and that you create a handbook. Secondly, manage your team with empathy. You are part of the same boat, but in some way you are the manager, you are the captain. So do not jump to the water before your team is secured. Don't give the wrong message. Um, but but prepare yourself to be overwhelmed. Um, not everything is a picnic. So prepare to have those overwhelmings. Prepare to have stress moments, but be prepared to learn and to take the advantage of being part of the journey. Work together with other teams, locally and globally. We are all part of the same company, which means we all want the same thing. Between corporate HR service line teams, country HR teams, site HR teams, all of us working together, it's important.
Wow, that's an amazing thing. So as we come to the end now, but I mean, empathy and the importance of the fact that we're all in the same boat, and that you're the managing of the boat and manage the human aspects
just
of
to
this.
close,
Yeah.
very important thing: set up. This is now between work and life balance. Set up clear boundaries. This is a stressful moment. Probably you will lose your where work and life in personal life starts, because you start being overwhelmed with many things.
Okay.
Probably try to create a boundary.
Okay, that's really important. We are out of time, but create a boundary, empathy, communication, managing expectations. It has been a fantastic show. What you've achieved, Diogo, and what your team has achieved is nothing short of remarkable. Kudos to you all. We are back next week, and we're going to be talking about smarter budgeting, better mobility, the future of managed budgets. I'm going to bring Tally onto our stage. Our wonderful producer, Julia and Julie, both had to drop for work meetings, but we are back next week. Tally, once again, many thanks for all your help last week when I couldn't make it on the show. Diogo, many thanks for being an absolutely remarkable guest today. We hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. It's been a great week. We are back this time next week to be talking about the future of mobility policy. So everybody, take care, have a great week, and it's goodbye from all of us. Take care, have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hope it worked.